You're listening to 102.9 WFPRLP, Franklin Public Radio.
You hear me? Yeah. You good? Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the December 16th, 2024 Planning Board meeting.
Recording in progress.
This meeting is audio and video recorded, as well as on Zoom. Zoom call number is 312.
Hold on. Okay, should be good, yep.
The Zoom calling number is 312-625-6799 with a meeting number of 99199-340-387. We're going to take a couple items of business. Jen's not here tonight, and Beth has to leave at 8:30, so we're going to schedule it. But, meeting minutes. Is everybody read, and is there any comments and questions for the November 4th and 18th or 2024 meeting minutes? I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 4th and 18th. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Our first item of business we'll take is the, initial public hearing, and this is for zoning bylaw amendments 24-917 and 24-918, accessory dwelling units.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If I could go to Amy at Department of Planning, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We actually revisited this about a year ago, where we made accessory dwelling units through special permit. And the state has now, on August 2nd, 2024, Governor Healy signed the Affordable Homes Act and is requesting that under the general laws, the accessory dwelling unit be allowed by right and not special permit. Most of our criteria, there was a lot more criteria to this, but the one thing was the special permit is to be removed for single family, as well as we also required that the homeowner live on the property. That was also part of the state legislature that asked that that be removed too. The size is still staying the same. We had a maximum of 900 feet or 50% of the existing dwelling, and it's also the least of the size. So whichever one's smaller that they're required to put on there. So this is in front of us due to the Affordable Homes Act that came upon us. That will go into effect February 2nd, 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to the board, I see Brian. Brian, you're out there. Did you want to weigh in on this one briefly or no?
I think I heard what Amy just said was very accurate. I know Gus Brown's here. He's been dealing now with the ZBA special permits and things of that nature on accessory dwelling units. He had a little bit to do with these amendments as well as Amy. So, I mean, as Amy stated, they are needed changes. They're relatively small. The state just came out with some guidelines on how to implement the law, and they just make it complicated. But I think that now these are definitely changes that are necessary, maybe because this state wants more changes, the state agencies want more than the law, rather. Maybe we have to come back at some point, but right now I think this is a good. A good start, hopefully a finish on the accessory dwelling unit laws that have come in recently.
Okay, thank you. Just a further, rest of the board, anybody
questions or comments, just understanding that this is what the state is requiring us to do, so kind of don't really have much choice in it, and it'll make it easier for accessory dwelling units to be built in places that, hopefully will make a difference for housing.
Unfortunately, I agree. When I was on the committee for the rezoning, it was for owner occupied, that was our control. But this is coming down from the state, unfortunately, hands are tied. I'm not in favor of it myself, but, sounds like that's the road the state's taken, and, unfortunately, not much choice sometimes. So, make a motion to, oh, sorry.
That's right. Through you, Mr. Chair. Brian, the requirement to remove the owner occupancy, is that desired or required by the state?
The two things that we're changing are both required by the state.
So no towns in the municipality, I'm sorry, in the Commonwealth will have a requirement stating that residents must live to have occupancy of the ADU?
I believe that's the case. If it's all implemented statewide, which hopefully it will be, that'll be the case, yes.
My concern, and obviously, Brian, this is out of your control, but my concern is that I think this goes in the face of what we talk about a lot, affordability, because now you have a larger population of investors that could purchase single-family homes, add an ADU, rent out both, and I think that that's contrary to what they're trying to achieve. Does this require a unanimous vote?
We're just recommending.
Oh, we're recommending.
That's just a recommendation.
Okay,
Town council has the ultimate decision.
got it. Okay. That's my concern. I think it's a big one.
Brian, I had a quick question. You talked, real quick, about potentially bringing this back to the table at some point. Was there a duration of time that this could come back to the table? Was there talk of it?
Sorry, back to the table where? Sorry?
You spoke of that this potentially coming back to the table at some point in time. Was there any kind of
Well,
timeframe?
well, what I'm saying is that just recently, there was some state agency draft regulations publicized. And they have not become regulation yet, but in that, before they become actual regulation, there may be some changes, there may be some different things. Maybe their definition of a single-family housing district is different than ours, and I know it happens to be. So there will be changes in the regulation, and how it actually impacts our changes, well, I mean, that's fine. But I know these two items that we have proposed to make, they're not likely to change in the regulation. They're not at all questioned by the regulations, the draft regs that came out recently, so.
Okay.
Anyway, that, like, Amy and Gus and the town came up with these regulations saying we're gonna get ahead of this thing, and then draft regulations come out that may complicate things, but they're not going to change anything related to the two changes we are proposing. There may be other changes that the state wants us to make in the future, but
Okay.
I don't have any reason why we would just hold off on making these two minor changes before, right now, just because more changes may occur in the future.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, if I may, I agree entirely with everyone else is saying. I just want to put one more spin on this. As Chris pretty definitely pointed out here, this is going to increase the amount of investors buying single-family homes and turning things into investment properties. And I think that the impact that this is going to have on the character of a lot of neighborhoods has not been taken into account at all. Me, for example, in my neighborhood would be right for something like this to happen. I mean, the first conversation I'm having with my wife when I get home is like, we gotta get out of here. There's gonna be ADUs popping up on our little 10,000 square foot lots everywhere. This is gonna go from feeling like Franklin to feeling like Worcester in about 2 years. So, not too cool in the state with this one.
So,
Can I ask one more question? I'm sorry.
sure, go ahead.
Brian or Amy, in this, I think think I know the answer, just want to make sure I know the answer. There's a footnote number 8 that says in the residential zones that are being changed by right to allow accessory dwelling units, that not only one accessory dwelling unit is allowed, but you can go to ZBA for a special permit to allow a second accessory dwelling unit. So we're talking about the potential for multiple accessory dwelling units on one lot in addition to the single-family home. So I just want to make sure that particular footnote is something that's also being required by the state law.
Yeah, I can take that. That is correct. That just came out last week. Unfortunately, we had already put that in there prior to, with our discussions, and I credit to Brian for that. That was part of the guidelines that came out last week, that it would have to be a special permit if they were to add a second one. Do also want to note, and I know that our building commissioner Gus Brown is online, that they still have to meet setbacks. So you know, that they can't just go build, I don't know, a shed with a house right on the property line. So some of those, they still have to meet that. They have to meet the septic requirements and the well
Size
requirements
into
as
place,
well.
yeah.
Those were not taken away
Okay.
by the state, so
Great.
just a note on that.
Yep, okay, just want to make sure it's all out there. Got it, thank you.
So, anybody in the public, excuse me, have any questions, comments? Just approach the mic and give your name and address, please. For the record.
Good evening, everyone. Bob Ferretra, 96 High Bank Road, Franklin. Just a general question right now, as far as accessory dwelling units. Could you expand a little on that for me? Does that also include turning a home into a multifamily building within the property? Does it include just in-law apartments or converting the barn to a, what exactly is included in accessory dwelling units?
Maybe you want to run with it?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So an accessory dwelling unit is typically an in-law apartment. However, there are stricter guidelines that just turning it into a two-family. Technically, you are, but you can only build 900 square feet pretty much at the max of adding on. So if you have a 3,000 square foot house, you're only adding on 900 square feet. That's how it works. You have to be able to have enough setback and yard area to be able to add on that 900 square feet.
Thank you. And lastly, did I hear you say that the state is mandating this?
That's correct.
So there's nothing for us to do?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, anybody else? Yeah, just approach the mic, give your name and address, please.
Well, my name's Brian Kafke. I'm 19 Spruce Pond Road, and I apologize I'm a bit late to this, but could somebody just sort of summarize the purpose of the property and the goal, so kind of have a better sense of what we're talking about?
Go ahead.
The goal is to increase housing stocks, providing a variety of different housing opportunities for people that might need them.
Okay.
Or a property owner that decides maybe they want to have their mother live with them longer, they can add on to the house or provide a independent unit based upon our zoning bylaws, and as Amy indicated, meeting setbacks and size requirements and
Okay.
utilities and all of those.
Is it also like first-time home buyers to help people to be able to buy a home? Is that part of the goal, or?
No,
No?
not necessarily a first-time home buyer. I would say maybe you're a homeowner that, I mean, you could buy a home as a first-time homeowner and add
Yeah.
on to it, maybe for a rental unit to
Okay.
help supplement your income, but maybe you want your kids to stay with you in your home, so you add on a unit for them to, you know,
Okay.
or your senior parents stay in local and be close to you, and things
Okay.
to that extent.
So is it low-income housing or just general housing?
No?
Just housing like anything
Housing
else?
in general.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
if I may too, just to clarify, when people are saying in-laws and family, that rule changed, I think, 2 years ago, where the town of Franklin and then now the state no longer requires them to be family members. So you can own a home, build an ADU, and rent it to the person you meet on, you know, Craigslist, apartments.com, whatever. And then, again, my concern here is that now neither of those units have to be occupied by a property owner. And that's my big concern. I'm all for the units, but that's my issue.
In secondary to what Chris says, this is an in-law like everyone is. No one is an in-law where you kind of like build an addition off your home, this can be an entirely separate unit.
Separate structure.
So, plenty of places in downtown Franklin get a little 10,000 square foot lots, and now they're gonna be pockmarked with structures. You've already got a shed on that thing, you got three structures on a 10,000 square foot lot, not a genius move.
Anybody else? I'm gonna make a motion to not move this along to town council for all the reasons of the board. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Okay. Okay. This will be our next, excuse me, our next item of business. This will be for an initial public hearing for a zoning bylaw amendment 24-919 and 24-920. This will be for a sign illumination. Do I hear a motion to waive the reading? Wait a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Amy, if I could go to you, please, with department planning?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is kind of, bringing kind of some of the science stuff up to more current standards, what other towns have done. There's been a request to adding the LED and LCD boards, to specific zoning, districts. So we're looking at commercial 2, business, and the office zoning districts to allow for the LED and LCD lighting to be permitted. I also put a letter that came in, had one of the property owners had requested that this go through. It would be by special permit through the planning board. If any sign, any LED or LCD sign came in front, it'd be through special permit by planning board, and then they would also go through design review should they, for the size and color of the signs. So that would still be there.
Good,
Thank you.
Anybody on the board? Questions, comments? Mark?
Thank you, no comment.
Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just in regards to the medium of the sign, not necessarily placement, setback, et cetera.
I believe it's illumination.
They would still have to meet those.
Okay. No other questions?
Okay.
I have to plead my ignorance with this, although everything is going over to LEDs now. So it's pretty much the standard light that we have come in front of us. I guess it's really picking back on Chris, like, light standards are gonna be the same, so spillage, yada, 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 and there's a way to take that into account off the sign. Like, it's not gonna
So-
impact lighting in it's not gonna create some sort of glare that's offensive.
And that's a good question, Jay. They would be through the special permit requirement, and then we actually have that in there, has the 24-920, that they're not to shine the light off of the property and not to affect any traffic, not to be too close to the streets, that it would disturb that. And that would be under the special permit process.
All right, because those will end up having to be pretty low-powered LEDs, because I can see about a dozen from here.
Mhm.
So, this is
Yeah.
completely foreign to me, I'm used to downward projecting LEDs, so.
Right.
What about like neon lights and everything? How's that falling into this?
Neon's not included in this.
Yeah, I know, I was just wondering if it's gonna get approached.
If it gets approached, it'd be another amendment.
Just asking the question.
I think so. No, it's strictly to the LED and LCD.
Yeah, I guess as long as there's some way to limit the intensity of these things, that's
Mhm.
my
Eh,
only concern.
I know that, I worked with our building commissioner Gus Brown, and I worked with the town attorney Mark Sorrell on, hashing this out and putting this together, this bylaw. And that was going down to the special permit about them providing, and we do say in it, upon findings that there's no traffic safety hazard. So that's part of looking at the illumination, of how far the illumination goes out. So that was really important that was written in there, and where the structure is, where the light spillage is, that it doesn't affect the properties around it or the street around it, or the traffic that comes on that street.
Chris?
All set.
a huge fan of this particular bylaw. I understand why it's needed, but in our sign bylaw, Amy, do we still allow 3 lines of changeable letter type on like a sign, such as the one that's out here for, box seats, where it used to be, they have like a letter board to change things, to let people know what's going on? We still have that in our bylaw, right?
Was it always in our bylaw?
I think so.
Yeah, it still is.
Yeah. So I'm curious why, and Jay, I think it's probably just because that's the direction everything's going, like you were saying, is LED is the new thing to do, but, you know, the hardship that they would need a variance from the zoning board of appeals if you have the opportunity to put changeable letters, you can let people know what's going on, is the purpose because they want to have more, be able to say more, or put images up. I think I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with this if we had some more specifics on what our illumination levels are, flashing signs, things to that extent. I don't remember what the definition is for our, is it?
What's that last sentence? Puts a little bow on it a little bit. Says we can
No glare,
impose
adjacent properties.
changing conditions.
Yeah, but just says to protect public safety, not, you gotta take in consideration neighbors and, you know, everything else of such.
And doesn't the state have any on their sign, like billboards and things to that extent? I know this isn't a billboard, but don't they have regulations to say it can be no brighter than so many lumens and things to that extent?
No, not really.
No, no?
I'm going through this one right now, and
Yeah.
there's some standards out there from ASHTO and like ITV, but they're more like recommendations and like we got a lighting standard for roads in town? Nope.
No.
So it's a lot less common than you think to have an actual, like, meet this many lumens, or like, meet this many candles.
Okay. I understand. I'm not so sure I like the idea. I feel like driving down our main street, West Central Street, East Central Street, we are just inundated with signs, and it's, the purpose is for you to be able to look at them and know what you're looking for in advertising. But there's so many of them now, I just don't feel like you can focus on it. So I don't know, for me personally, I just think we're turning into a big, bright Framingham Route 1, Worcester, Route 9. But if this is the direction we're going as a town, then
Well, we don't have to
Yep.
recommend it for approval.
I
We can
understand.
go back to
Mhm.
town council, but.
Maybe if we put some nuance on it, because it seems like you're looking for signs that aren't messaging. And then in
I don't
addition to
mind them
that,
being messaging, I just don't like moving graphics and things to that extent, you
Yep.
know, just like a limit on how long each image can flash up there, how bright they can be and things to that extent, I
mean,
think
this-
would be helpful.
is this even what this is covered? Because when I see LED, I was just thinking backlit by LEDs. I wasn't, my mind didn't even go to the same place as yours.
I think of the big, because I just did this at my job, I just did 2 big signs that were fully LED message boards that flash an image, and you can only leave it up for so long. Clear guidelines on what we needed to do in order to make those signs meet the standards of the town.
So, I guess playing the devil's neighbor,
Yeah,
that seems like something we should apply to all signs.
I don't disagree with you.
See, that's what I'm kind of looking for there, so.
But I also understand it's also an enforcement thing, so do we have the ability to enforce what we're putting in our bylaws? I don't know as though we have that staffing to be able to do that.
And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to kind of answer Beth's question here, that's a part of the special permit. I mean, that is something this board can regulate. If this were to pass, the board can regulate, you can only change every 10 seconds, or you can only do that. I mean, yes, it's hard to regulate, you put it in a special permit, and who's monitoring it, but, and maybe the building commissioner can add on to this, but that was the whole point of putting the special permit regulation in there, and not just letting it be allowed.
Oh, totally understand that.
By that,
So when we say we can do that by special permit, I get that, but we're saying the general special permit criteria set out aren't applying. So what are the special permit criteria then for saying that, yes, you meet these criteria? Is it just the ones that are in here upon the findings that no traffic safety hazard will be created? That's the only special permit criteria we can hang our hat on.
That's correct. You can always add on to a special permit, like they have to go through the A through G, their qualifications, what they say they're gonna do, and if the planning board's uncomfortable with that,
Okay.
you can add in special conditions.
Okay.
I'd like to hear what Jen has to say, but she's not here. Can we push this one along? Is this like a try? Can we push
It's,
this one to the next one
scheduled-
so we can all review it? Maybe with a little more language on it?
I think we can do that. So when's town council meeting?
so town council is, January 8th. We could make a recommendation that town council continue that meeting. They can choose to open the hearing and continue it and not have it heard that night. Or,
Then we can define a little bit more and then Jen can voice her.
it's gonna be their choice if they wanna continue or they wanna open up well, they can open and continue, or they can open and have it heard. They'll have to have a second reading, no matter what, and that second reading date is not set. They don't set that until after, they open the first hearing.
I'm kind of torn on this one.
Go ahead, Chris.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Amy, where did this originate from? Was this from the town side, or was it constituents? Like, how did this become an issue?
So it's joint. It is from a particular property owner and it's from the town. It kind of came together that there was an interested party that wanted to be able to have an LED sign. I think there's a letter here from an attorney that was representing them, and that's why it came about.
I think I'm gonna
You
make a
want to do
motion.
public comment?
Yes. Yeah, we'll do public comment for that. Yep. If anybody in the crowd, if you just want to approach the mic, give your name and address, please.
My name's Patrick Downing, 20 Cranberry Drive. My wife and I are the owners of Glen Farmer Distillery, and so to answer some of the questions that you're raising, we're probably part of how this originated. If I can explain, I think I can answer some of the questions that you've raised amongst yourselves, and I can also explain what the hardship is that you're questioning as well. So there's really two reasons that we're looking to add an LCD or LED sign with variable messaging. And it does include variable messaging, just to clarify that point. One is for increased visibility. That is part of the value of an LED or LCD sign, is increased visibility. And as much as you can talk about white noise, or not white noise, light pollution also comes from parking lots and can bleed over to the extent that it may affect existing signage so that it's less visible. So it actually works both ways. From our standpoint, we're a distillery located in the town, and we often are out in the community at liquor stores, bars, restaurants doing tastings. And you would be surprised how many people have no idea that Franklin has a distillery located in the town. And when we ask them, do you know where BJ's is, or do you know where the 99 is? Invariably, they all say, yes, of course. And our comment is, we're located across the street from the 99. Not that they should know where we are, it's just not that noticeable. The section contained in the proposed bylaw change is a section of West Central Street, which is not, I think, the area that you're speaking about predominantly. And so if you travel down that section of West Central Street, you'll find that on the near side of our building, we have a condemned building. On the other side, we have a self-storage building that has large trucks and RVs parked on it. Visibility of our building is not there. People drive by all the time. We host events. The feedback we get from events who are attending is, in fact, that they drive by and then ultimately turn around. So that's part of it. Part of it is visibility. The second part of it is the variable messaging. A growing and very important part of our business is events. This year, we hosted 26 weddings on site at the distillery. 80% of those weddings had the actual ceremony on site. Those weddings are regional destination weddings, originating from New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, greater Boston area. This is not only important for our business, it's important for the town of Franklin. These people are invariably staying overnight in local hotels, and they're dining at local restaurants because they're going to have one meal at our distillery, but they're invariably here at least for one overnight. And so in the world of business related to event planning, it's incredibly important to be able to provide personalized experiences. Yes, we do that on site at the distillery when you arrive, but as I mentioned before, many people can't find us, and they're coming from out of town. And people who are hosting these personalized events like weddings, they want to be able to welcome their guests. We get the request all the time, is there any way you can put a sign out front so that people who are coming in from out of town will know that they've arrived? Because it's not a traditional thing to host a wedding at a distillery. And if you'd asked me 5 years ago when we started this business, I never would have imagined that that would be the case. But it is the case. And so being able to personally welcome guests, we're not talking about flashing signs. We're not talking about tacky things. I would never embarrass my family or the town by doing something that's tacky. I have pictures of the proposed sign. It's a beautiful sign that Cam Afonso is planning to make. And the same thing holds true for corporate events. 3 weeks ago, we hosted a major biotech company who arranged for buses for 300 of its employees to come to Franklin from Cambridge. Guess what? They didn't want to take the buses. They all drove. And so again, the issue is visibility, but it's also providing an experience. That's what people expect in these kinds of things. And yes, it's important for our business, but what I'm also trying to convey is that it's important for the town of Franklin, and that the town of Franklin actually benefits. We're not talking about light pollution and bleeding. This area, I would encourage you after this meeting, please drive down this section of West Central Street. There isn't a lot, not to take away from the businesses that are active, they're great neighbors, but this is something that's necessary. And so, you know, this coming spring, we're working with the Metro West Visitors Bureau, the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism in the town of Franklin to host a group of international tour operators in preparation for World Cup 2026. Being able to provide personalized experiences is important. We'll do our part no matter what, but I promise you, we can make that experience that much more personable and welcoming by having variable messaging that puts it out there that welcome to Franklin, welcome to Glen Farmer Distillery. And lastly, and most importantly, we're a distillery. We're a distillery and we operate our tasting room as a restaurant. And we have always appreciated the support, the local support of the residents of Franklin. And we appreciate that Friday and Saturday nights we're busy. But we'd like to be busy the other nights of the week as well. And we have a product offering and a service offering that's important, and it's in the best interest of Franklin for us to be able to communicate that offering to people who drive by, mostly on their way to BJ's. We're not talking about tacky signs. Ultimately, Design Review Committee has purview over the signs, and ultimately you guys also have purview as part of this special permit process. All we're asking for is an opportunity to present our case on an individual basis. Thank you for even considering this. Appreciate all you've done. Appreciate what Amy and Michael and everybody else and Gus, appreciate all of your time and giving us an opportunity. Thank you.
So, zoning bylaw amendment 24-919 and 24-920, because we want to make sure this, if we're gonna go for it, we want to make sure we do it correctly. And not that you won't, but it's not to say others will, that's all. Amy, what, a date,
January 13th?
something? It's a motion to continue to January 13th, or a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'm gonna go out of skew a little bit here. I'm gonna go to, excuse me, public hearing for 15 Liberty Way, site plan application. If we go to Amy, please, for,
Yeah, I'm not, is the engineer here? Is there anyone here for
Anybody
15
here for-
Liberty Way?
15 Liberty Way.
Dan said he would, I know it's Dan Campbell, and I don't see him here,
I
but
don't
he
see
did
him
say he would be attending. So, if we want, I don't see him online, and,
All right, so
Move on to the next
we'll
one,
just,
come back.
yeah, we'll just have to
Yeah.
come back, but that's all, okay. We'll go to our initial, second public hearing, which would be 55 Constitution Boulevard. This is a site plan application. And I think this is more of a update and a brief of where we are and where we're gonna be going with this.
Very brief.
Yep, you just wanna give us I know, last time we spoke, we were still working through all the questions and comments and whatnot. If you wanna give the board a
Sure. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name's Todd Morey from Beals Associates. I have Tyler Lapshansky from our office with me, and Jeff Sullivan from Northbridge Partners, the applicant. So when we last met with you, we were still waiting to get the peer review comments from Beta. You folks left us with 4 or 5 comments for us to consider and think about, which we have, and I just want to update you where we are on those. We did receive, I believe it was was it Wednesday? I think it was Wednesday that the comments came in from Beta. So we are working our way through those. I expect we'll have a package back to you in a short period of time. We're getting to the end of the year, so there's some weird vacation gaps in our office, but we're trying to work through that. So we'll be in good shape for your next meeting. While we're doing that, I did want to go through some of your comments before. I don't have plan updates for you because a lot of those also will be incorporated with the Beta comments. So I didn't want to have, for example, 3 versions of a site plan out there floating around. So the fewer plans, the better. So one of the first comments that was made at the last meeting was that on the site plan itself, we were missing a couple of demarcations for the access doors, and that the ADA spaces didn't quite line up. And that was really just a function of the site plan came out before the architecturals. We're in the process of getting those lined up. So basically what you're gonna end up seeing is the ADA spaces will go out to the corners of the building on that front. And then we're working on the second building as well, Building B, just making sure that that's all coordinated. So the next time you see a site plan, that will be 100% coordinated. Also on the site plan, I think it actually was Mr. Chairman mentioned that he just wanted to make sure that we were okay with the pinch point coming around the corner. We did go back and look. They go real slow by each other. They could have made it. Really, trucks in there are going to want to travel 5 or 10 miles an hour. So what we did is we're just going to realign the curbs slightly, and we'll give you a turning sketch on that. So Tyler did some work on that to make sure that trucks don't have to basically stop and creep by. They can just go on a fluid movement through there. So we'll get that taken care of. There was a question about some drainage that was shallow, less than 2 feet of cover. We went through and we looked. We did find one location. I didn't know, Mr. Mello, I believe, made the comment. I didn't know if there were additional locations or if there was just that one spot that you had found. But where we found the spot was right near the front of the site. There's an existing drainage structure and then a pipe that came out of it, and it is less than 2 feet. We're looking at, and the area around that existing drainage structure is not in great shape right now. So we're looking at maybe putting in a shallow catch basin just to rebuild that structure, and then we'll get the adequate cover on that. But if there were other specific, I don't know if there were other specific areas that you identified.
And even with that particular pipe, just change the material. Like if you're gonna be working on the base, it just goes across the road, right?
Yeah, we're gonna change those out to concrete.
Yeah. I don't wanna speak for, if you have to use, like, sorry, I'm blanking right now, but if you have to use iron instead, that's fine by me.
A ductile iron
Yeah,
pipe.
if you use DI.
Yeah, I try to stay away from those with drainage structures, just because, I suppose the cement line isn't so bad, but
Yeah.
they get to be a lot more susceptible to salt and things like that,
No, I
so.
was thinking, if you have to use CLDI, it does a lot better than having to go to like an H20
Yeah.
concrete pipe, so.
Yep.
Either one of them is cool.
So we're aware of that spot, so we're gonna take a look at it and just make sure everything's good there. One of the members, I believe it may be the member who isn't here tonight, asked if we talked to the fire department about that corner. Tyler and I actually met with the fire department, was it last week? Last week. And talked to them about their thoughts on the site, not only how close we were to their facility, but just the site in general. They had looked at circulation around the site, they were happy with it, they appear to be happy with the fire hydrant spacing. And then we talked about that specific area. So the closest to that corner is actually where their garage is. So if you recall the site plan, the upper portion is where their garage spaces are, and that's where the trucks actually come in. Their dormitory is down on the lower side. So actually, they weren't concerned about where our drive goes very close to their property line, but they asked us if we could take a look at where we have parking below Building B, just to make sure that no lights are shining in or anything like that. So we told them we'd do that. We've since gone back and looked, and if you think about the site plan again, you'll recall there's an area, a fairly large area, where we're gonna be removing pavement and just planting it with grass. I think what we're gonna look at doing is berming that up a little bit, so that'll help a couple of different things. That'll help a little bit with noise, because, an earth structure helps with noise attenuation much more than just vegetation. And it'll also help block some of the headlights going that way. So if we can get a 3 or 4 foot berm up in there, and then we'll put the trees up on top of that as well. So I also think from a pure aesthetic standpoint, that'll look much better than a flat, featureless, grassed over parking lot, to have a little bit of topography in there to support those plantings. So, and then the final comment was also about looking to see if we could reduce parking. We do have a lot of parking that we're showing on the site. We are currently looking at some areas where we could land bank some of that and defer the parking only if a potential tenant needs it. As we discussed at the last meeting, we don't have specific tenants in mind. So when you're trying to market buildings like this, it's advantageous from a marketing standpoint to show as much flexibility with parking and loading as you can. A lot of times what happens is, once we identify a tenant, they come in and they say, well, we only need about half the parking, or 3/4 of the parking, and they may not need all of it. So we are aware that we are over the zoning requirement, and we have done it for a marketing purpose. But there are some areas, like we talked about, the upper right-hand side of the plan, taking out that final row up there. We'll do some minor grading changes such that if we do take that row out, we don't have to keep catch basins out in the woods. So if we don't build it, then we don't have to touch anything back there. And those are the kind of things that we're looking at addressing. So when you see the site plan come back, you may see some areas of dashed parking with little Rs in circles. Those are reserved, and those would be the ones that we would try to land bank for you.
I'm gonna just go to Mike. Mike, did you have any questions or comments?
No, we haven't seen any revised plans, as you mentioned, so just on the initial plans, was just some things about, I think there was some, the curbing was kind of called on the plan, there's some Cape Cod berm we want to see. Obviously, the board usually likes to see vertical concrete pipe on site, and then the reference to the HDP pipe was on the original plans, but I think you already discussed bringing that up to concrete per the regulations.
Gary, I know you kind of went through it, but.
It wasn't that bad.
Just wanna go through,
A few of the bigger things. There is an existing infiltration system on the site. It's not
Yes.
shown on the plans. We kind of guesstimated where we thought it was. If it's
As
there.
did we. We actually came to town hall and tried to identify exactly where that was. And we were also curious what it was made out of. I think, we've stopped short of actually digging it up because that existing building is still there and
Yeah.
it is taking some rooftop, so we didn't really want to damage it. while the building was still there.
No, but I think, I think our point was, if it's there, it'd be nice if you could utilize it.
I can take a look at some of the elevations in that area and see if we
Yeah,
can,
take a look at the elevations.
maybe we can keep it plugged in.
Yeah.
The-
As long as I didn't even look to see whether or not the pavement was going over the top of it.
It
When they
is.
expanded the drive,
No, it
to be
is.
able to get into the building B on the backside.
The only thing I would ask is that if we do use it, please don't, we didn't dig any test pits in that area.
No, I know, I understand.
And, you know, there was one period I came out right after a fairly heavy rainfall because I was checking on the wetland flagging, because there was some talk of, is that really an intermittent stream? What is really down there? So I waited till it rained pretty hard, came out. When I walked across that area, it's a grassed area kind of off the edge of the pavement, that was a little soft, a little punky. So, you know, for heavy rainstorms, that may be a little bit undersized, but if there's an opportunity for us to keep it, we can take a look at that and do that.
I was gonna say all of the comments that the board raised, I mean, obviously we had raised also, so it's good to see that was gonna be taken care of. The other issue is the detention basin, the SB series. There was an increase in overall volume going through it.
That's correct, about
Yeah.
a half an acre foot.
Yeah,
Um,
and unfortunately, under the limits of the bylaw, you don't have the ability to be able to increase. There's a mandate under the bylaw that you have to maintain equivalency with regard to even the volumes. So take a quick look at that.
Well, reusing that existing infiltration.
If you
maybe
use that, I
just
think,
enough to get us,
yes, it
to
might be
slide
close
us under.
enough. I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Other than that, that was, like I said, just go through the laundry list.
I got it.
Anybody from the board, any questions, comments? Okay, Amy? What do you think for time for everybody?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like I said, they hadn't provided any revised plans. I know that we're still waiting on the traffic study from Beta that's going to be reviewing, that was submitted, so hopefully at the next meeting that's available.
Okay.
So they did make some comments in their letter. Is there gonna be a secondary, is there gonna be a
Okay.
follow-up on
I
just the
think Dennis
traffic?
did make comments on it.
Yeah, I think they had like
Get it?
5 or 6 comments in there on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that can be reviewed at the next meeting.
If there is gonna be another one, I can let GPI know there's another letter coming, but we
Okay.
gave them those comments for now, so.
So what do you
That's it.
think?
Continue.
Yeah, I was waiting to get back to
Um,
you, schedule-wise.
I mean, we're filling up. I don't know if we had Dennis come on January 13th,
I don't see why not.
is that possible?
That's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, how quickly do you think you're gonna have?
We're trying for the last couple of days of this year, or maybe the first couple of days of 2025, to get that turned around back to you folks.
It's gonna be close.
So they won't have their review back for the 13th.
Push up, because we had master plan that night, right?
No, we have master plan on the 27th, the next meeting.
27th, okay.
Mhm.
If it's gonna come in after the first of the year, the answer
It's no.
So,
is no.
yeah, because of the holiday.
27 have a lot on it already, or is it?
We have 3,
3 already, and this would be number 4
yeah.
on top of the master plan, or is the master plan?
No, and that would be, this would be number 3. No, actually, they would be number 4.
It goes through you,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure that we have enough time to thoroughly review the master plan committee without it being about 10 o'clock at night, having the master plan.
Mhm.
A full attention on that, so I guess I would be just a little, I don't want to hold folks up, because I know business is money and you want to get through it, but just don't want to overwhelm us with too much on.
Could we try for the 13th and notify you, Amy? If we don't get these things in before the end of the year, we can defer the date.
It's tough, because I know that we got one more public hearing that's gonna be continued, and I know that I probably have 1 or 2 new things coming in. So like, I can reserve stuff on the agenda, but if it's not gonna be ready, we're taking up spots for other people that might be ready.
Push it for the next one then, and then at least you'll have proper information, and it'll be right through Baylor at night. probably have a lot more squared away by then. I don't wanna push it out, but
I
the town is
don't
getting
either.
closed up.
2 months away, that's the only,
Yeah, it's January, it'll be what, January,
that'd be February.
Is there,
no, the 13th, will be 2 weeks from that.
So- if I'm hearing correctly, you're saying Beta, you don't think you'll be able to be ready for the 13th? Or,
If it comes in after the first of the, if it comes in between the two holidays, then yeah, we can get it out. But if
Well,
it
let's
comes
put-
in after the first of the year,
Yeah, let's try to make it happen before the first of the year.
yeah, if you can get it in between the holidays, so that, obviously, we should be able to get something.
Okay, let's aim for that then.
I say, put it on the 13th if you can, and get it the sooner the better.
Yep.
And have enough time to make sure you can actually be heard with sufficient discussion for the 13th.
Comments were reasonable anyways, so.
Yeah,
we should be
they're
able to
not-
turn it around.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah. If I can just make one more comment.
Sure.
If for some reason drainage isn't available, we can at least spend time talking on traffic.
Well, that's.
That
was gonna
like,
be-
yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
because
we
sometimes
typically
traffic
like-
can take an hour, and that's about much time that we kind of give to the public hearing.
Sure.
So even if it's just a night of focusing on traffic, that,
Yeah, I think I can have
That
the
would be
traffic
worth it.
comments back tomorrow.
Okay.
Really quick.
so, yeah, so that would be
We'd like
efficient.
separate-
And then if we can't
separate.
get to drainage will be pushed out, but we can.
So one of the things that Beta does quite well, not just here in this town, but other towns that we've worked in them, is they separate their letters out into certain categories. So once we get full categories done, maybe we just start sending those kind of things in, with the understanding that, yeah, you'll get one comprehensive one at the end, but at least you have things to look at. And we can knock some of them off.
So we'll target for traffic at least for the 13th and
Mhm.
a little bit more information on that, okay? So make a motion to continue 55 Constitution Boulevard till January 13th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tyler, I know you're going on vacation next week. We'll talk about that.
He's not going on vacation.
Not anymore.
I know how that goes.
Thank you. Anybody from Libby Way online yet, or no?
I don't see anybody.
Okay, all right, we'll go on, we'll go to our next, meeting, which will be for an initial public hearing for 759 Union Street. Do I hear a motion to waive the reading? Do I second?
Second.
All in favor?
And apologize in advance to the public and Amanda, I have to leave at 8:30 today to go to the airport, so apologize.
So,
But I will watch the rest and remainder of anything that's not covered on the video.
I'm gonna look, this is just an initial one, I just wanna have Amanda give us a big overall view. There'll be a lot more information that'll
Yep.
come, through data, through Mike, and through engineering, so, Amanda, if you could just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Sure. Amanda Cavalieri with Carrier and Hellman. So just like Greg said, introductory, overview of the project. This parcel is an existing piece of land at the end of Union Street. It's the last property on the southern side. The applicant is proposing to put a business incubator flex building on this site, about a 15,000 square foot. The property is zoned commercial 2, so the business incubator flex is allowed by right on the property. What they are, what they're looking for is a type of building that is located centrally to Route 495 within this zone to promote startup businesses. It's good for the community. So when the site was being looked at as far as location goes, set back off the road, there are a couple of butters across the street that are within residential 6. There's, I believe it's 2 duplex units, and then Spruce Pond is over there. So a lot of the questions that I believe are coming up are associated with the business incubator and what is that, and what type of use will that be. So again, the the business incubator space is really more for supporting the community and entrepreneurs, startups, small businesses, and giving them a physical office space in a central location. So when we were setting up the site and talking with our client, they were looking at putting, we have 8 bays there. And they do have overhead doors. Each bay would have an overhead door and its own access point. And when we were laying it out as far as parking, we were looking at, okay, what is this type of use going to be limited to? And again, it's uses that would be allowed by right for startup. It will be owned by the applicant, and then each space would be leased to these startup businesses. So it wouldn't include anything such as hazardous waste storage or, you know, a marijuana dispensary or anything like that. These are small businesses that are looking to grow, seeing if their business can get started out in town. I believe similar things, and I didn't have a chance to research this before I came in, but there's the pop-up spaces that are within certain areas. I don't know if those are for small local businesses looking to get a central location, see how their business would go, but similar short-term leases, long-term leases, depending on the people that want to come in, but that's really the way it would be marketed. It's not going to be for auto repair. You know, we have 24 spaces. We did base our parking spaces off of the zoning bylaws for, we figured about 10% office space, and then the remaining space, we list it as warehousing space, but it's not. Trying to find an application or the right parking requirement for the space, that garage bay can really be for somebody to store, whether it's you know, an HVAC or an electrical person that's looking to start up his own company, maybe have storage for supplies associated with that. No hazardous waste, no vehicle repairs, no, that's not the type of clientele that this applicant is looking to do and looking to have. We have one-way circulation based on the topography and the groundwater levels out there to work with the site. We ended up changing it. We originally came to tech review with 2 entrances to have an in and an out. This way we have 1 in, 1 out. It goes one-way circulation around the building. And minimal disruption is possible. The in and the out at the base of at the south of the site abuts 495, so cars coming in and out are going to be well beyond the residential houses that are there, so you won't have car lights shining in front of the houses. They're also going to be facing directly towards the building. I think that's pretty much it. I know we did get a couple comments back from planning. We did get a couple comments back from the fire regarding 20-foot access instead of 18. So we'll address those questions, and then we'll await Beta comments.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Amy, if I could go to the Department of Planning?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, Amanda kind of went over what the project was for. I guess some of my comments were the parking calculations are based on warehouse use. Warehouse use is not allowed. Overhead doors, I'm not really sure what the purpose would be overhead doors, because that typically goes to industrial warehouse use, not the uses that are allowed in this zoning district. They are proposing the Cape Cod berm throughout the site, where basically the planning board prefers the precast concrete or the granite curbing. Fire did request they have an 18-foot driveway around the site, which is much appreciated. The fire does like a 20-foot wide driveway around the site, so if that's possible, that would be great. I know that I just did receive the check for Beta last week, so this is why they have not had time to respond, so they'll be working on that.
Thank you. I'm just going to go to the board really quick if anybody has any questions or comments. This is just an initial. There'll be a lot more information to come, but there's a lot. Go ahead, Beth.
For Amy. Amy, do you have your zoning book with you? I forgot
Yep.
my car.
Yeah, I meant to ask you, it's a question whether it's C1 or C2.
C2, right? On the zoning maps, it's C2.
It is C2?
Yep.
Why did I
You
think
want me to
it
go
was
ahead?
C1?
No, I didn't know if you had a
Oh,
question.
no, I have
Oh,
comments
go
on
ahead.
the application,
Latest and
unless
greatest.
you guys want to resolve this first.
Yeah, we'll
I
look
have
up
it right.
this evening.
I have it.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Jack.
All right, so,
So it was C2, but, okay.
good use of the space for where this is, right next to the highway, you know, I don't think you're gonna want, like a home or anything over there, but my big question is, there's a lot of easements here, a lot of them. And I did some searching on the registry and searching on the town's website, and I couldn't find like anything on them. So I guess I would be looking for a lot more information as to sort of what's going on with the easements. Just like two things that stand out to me as to being counter to the purpose of the easement, would be building a retaining wall and a water easement. It's not gonna really allow for easy future installation or maintenance within that. And then the second one is a pedestrian easement that has a retaining wall running through it, and then a driveway. So there seems to just be a lot of like weird easement things that need to be a little bit clearer spelled out. So I don't know if you guys can get the language, or like put all the easements on one plan and make them really easy to see. I do think there's some ways to work around that. Like particularly with this pedestrian easement, right, you already have to have a walkway on site, so maybe you move your handicap walkway to encompass the pedestrian easement, and that kind of, you know, eliminates the concern with it, but I guess that's really it, it's just there's a whole lot of easement depicted here, the deed language.
If I may, I don't know if it's beneficial or not, or if it just needs to get actually translated on a plan, but we did have a title search done, we have all that information, so that stuff is,
Maybe you could just shade it in different colors so it's a little easier, so you can see it.
Yeah, because it's like status to be determined by others, is it?
so we
You've
have
clarified all that?
Yeah, we do have all that. So we have a title search, we had that done by an attorney, so we do have all that information, we can provide it in our next submittal, and then the town attorney can make sure that we've interpreted everything correctly based on what we were provided.
Yep, I mean, beyond that, I'm interested to see what's allowed here by right, but I think the actual purpose and location of the building is a good call. You know, in general, I think there's a lot more to discuss with the specifics, but.
Thank you.
Chris? How would you, Beth, go? She's on a timeline. You found it?
Thank you, I appreciate that, Chris. So, I don't think that there's a whole lot of by right uses that scare me, such as an art gallery or craft maker space. Specifically, by right, you are allowed to do an incubator, business incubator and co-working space. But what does make me nervous is the uses in C2 that are allowed by special permit through the planning board, which is motor vehicle, boat, farm implement, sales, rental and leasing, with repair, without repair, motor vehicle service repair, auto body painting, soldering, welding, filling station. I feel as though I would, if this moves forward through the planning board, like to make some specific conditions that this space is intended to be a incubator space, not any of the uses that are allowed by
Yeah.
special permit.
That's absolutely fine with the applicant.
And I agree with the comment from Amy that why do you need overhead doors if it's an office incubator type space?
So office incubator, again, could be for some, like an electrician starting up. So if they have a van and they have their supplies, whether it's wiring or an HVAC and they have piping or something like that that they
Yeah.
need to put down, this way there's nothing laying out front.
Yep.
And that they're able to back up to it and put that equipment in. No cars, absolutely not. The applicant was very specific, which is why we did a by right use for that business incubator space for startups and to promote local entrepreneurs
Yep.
getting going.
Yep.
So that was specific to,
I think,
to this
the
one.
use is a great concept. I guess my concern would be that if you do have, plumbers, electricians, those kind of startup companies that need a space, it's gonna turn into something where they're there at 6 a.m. getting the trucks loaded to go to a job, and you do have residential rented. I understand the zone is zoned for this, so if you're a resident in the same zone as a commercial property, you can expect there to be commercial development. I get that. But knowing some of the issues we've had in other properties, is it Upper Union Street that has similar, is that where you need the hotel over there? Not Union, is it Union?
Upper Union.
Yeah, okay.
Upper Union.
There have been issues there with the contractors working out of those garages and noise and things to that extent, and pulling vehicles in. I would like to see it not, you're not allowed to bring your vehicles into the space. No repairs, things to that extent. Your hours of operation, I'd like to see some timeline on what time these kind of startups can start.
Absolutely.
It does concern me that you potentially have a startup space that would be for contractors. That does concern me a little bit.
Nope, and we can work that out and get specifics with the applicant.
Yeah, and just making sure plenty of screening on the residential side of things. You have a fence, I'm sorry, I didn't look too closely to see how high is your fence and what kind is it? Is that a fence or is that a retaining wall? It's a fence, right? Guardrail?
Retaining rail and, retaining wall and guardrail.
Guardrail, okay,
Yep.
all right.
How big is that retaining wall?
Yeah.
Hopefully not 4 feet.
It's a touch over 4 feet, but once you get that big, you're usually talking about, having foundations on them too, so that was kind of more my concern.
Because it's just gonna trigger additional alarms and whatnot.
I think it's like a scotch over 4 feet.
I didn't see
So we
it.
got 4, 3.5.
I think it maxed out at 5 in the corner, I believe.
Yeah, I think that small,
Yeah.
that corner over there was 5, and the rest was
So if
lower.
it's 4, you're
Retaining
fine.
wall stuff.
Yeah.
4 and under, you're fine.
Amanda, on your plans, is it possible to carry through the abutters' names on your
Yeah.
pages?
Yep.
Thank you.
So to clarify, is it C1 or C2? It is C2?
Yeah, that's what they say. I kept looking it up and.
Well, I'm just curious, that's all, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make a note
The-
for myself, but, okay. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm having just some difficulty, I guess, crossing the bridge besides we call it an incubator to this not being a contractor yard. I mean, they look identical to the strip building that was just put in over by the power lines on Washington, is that street, right? So I see a lot of similarities. If there is some covenants or restrictions to use, I think that's the great way to go, to Beth's point, business hours. I do know that this concept as a use, incubator space for warehousing, industrial type use, is becoming more prevalent. There's older flex office buildings that are being converted, and they're dropping these size units, not as self-storage, but as business startup spaces inside of them, but they are inside of a building, so there's no roll-up doors to drive in. So I think those concerns there for just reducing the nuisance as much as possible, I think is the best plan in my mind. And then the only other thing I kind of questioned, and this kind of goes contrary to the conversation we just had about LED signing, this is a destination location, it's at the dead end, like butting 495, and there's a sign here that says business sign, but if you're gonna have 8 individual businesses, what business sign would be needed at the street?
It'd be a directory.
Oh,
So
it'd be like-
if, so if somebody was
Got
to
it.
drive down to the end of the cul-de-sac and they would drive in, they would see what businesses are actually in there.
Okay,
So
so
it'd be a directory
Yeah,
sign.
Franklin Incubator, Suite
Yep.
1, got it,
Yep.
okay. Yeah, I think the only other concern I had too was just about vehicles in, because we can ask and plead all we want, but if it's an overhead door that they can drive into, at some point in time, I'd imagine someone will do it or try it, but those are all my concerns.
If I may through the chair, very quickly. One thing that we can talk to the applicant about is far as, right now, we do have the roll-up doors. The intent is to not have vehicles going in there because again, we know it triggers HVAC and trench drains and oil water separators, and those are costs and that the applicant doesn't want to incur associated with this, and that's not what the intent is. So we can talk to them even about possibly changing those to even double 3-foot, 6-foot open doors that they can pull up to and not have that come in if that's something that they would be amenable to.
Mr. Chairman, I'd feel more comfortable if they did not have overhead doors. I think you're just opening a can of worms that, as much as you say you don't want somebody in there, people are gonna go in there with their trucks and vehicles and start working out of them, and we aren't necessarily policing that on a daily basis to make sure that's not
No.
happening.
And we can talk to him, he's very, he is very accommodating. And then the other thing is I do have an elevation view that wasn't submitted, we didn't have it at the time. One of the abutters did reach out to us directly and asked for, you know, if we had any type of visual of what it would look like. So that'll be provided to the board during the next submittal. We do not have colors picked out yet. So.
Just cross-cut in height, just so we put them together.
Yep. Yep.
Jay?
So, I just wanted one more on the overhead door. Not all overhead doors are created equal, so what about an overhead door that will not fit a vehicle? Because,
They do have small ones.
yeah, 'cause just, you know, like a 6-foot overhead
Fine with
door.
that. I just
So
don't
you
wanna
can
go
still
back
get
to
equipment in
the-
there, you can still
Yeah.
bring materials in, but it restricts a vehicle, so you're not really restricting the use of the space as we're attempting to accomplish. But, you know, it doesn't turn into an auto. So
Okay.
It's middle ground.
So, couple options that you can look at.
I become Mr. Right.
Good, Jay? All set? Mark?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Question?
All my questions are answered.
If, I'll go to the public if anybody has anything. There's gonna be a lot more information moving forward, so if you wanna have a couple quick comments, that's good, but this is not just the first and last, this is gonna be continued. So if you just wanna approach the mic and give your name and address, please.
Susan Kelly, 20 Spruce Pond Road. I
Amanda.
hear the one-way,
All right, hold on 1 second.
Hold on 1 second.
I want to be able to see you.
There you go.
Perfect.
That's good, thank you.
Thank you.
I heard about the one-way in, one-way out, but it's a dead end. So I haven't heard anybody mention traffic. We have a school, 2 hotels, we have the restaurants, we're inundated, and you get an electrician, it's a startup, but when they become successful, the HVAC gonna have 10 trucks coming in and out. They going out in the morning, coming back during the day, what's it gonna be like? So that's my concern, there's a lot of kids up there.
If I may, through
I-
the chair?
Sure.
Um,
Just
and
hold on 1 second, and I'll have you approach the mic. Go ahead.
If we can, we will address that, any concerns in our next submittal as far as a narrative goes, based on, the type of incubator space is not meant for long-term leases as companies grow. So it's really startup. It's as these entrepreneurs are looking to see if they can get their business off the ground. And then once they become successful, they can be looking for bigger spaces. So
Do they
this is-
have to look for bigger spaces?
They will. They'll be limited based on because of the number of units. It will have allocated parking for those units, so they won't be able to,
Employee numbers?
they won't be able to expand.
Employee numbers, is that limited?
Again, startup companies, what the applicant's envisioning and what the leases will be for is based on the applied use, which would probably be, 1, 2, and right now, minimum of 3 spaces would be required for them.
But is there a limit to personnel, people in the building?
It's gonna be.
Trucks, number of trucks coming in and out, are there any limitations?
We can put that, I can work with the applicant on that and get some more information on the uses.
That would be good.
Yep, we could do that. But again, it's not meant to be for growing companies, it's just the startups, the small 1s, 2s, that are looking to get started.
It seems to me that there would be so many better spots for it. The fellow with the distillery, it's where BJ's and restaurants are, there's no, houses, there's no little kids, school, et cetera. There must be plenty of space in Franklin for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy, you want?
No, just to the chair, we can't regulate the amount of employees and stuff. They have to build it according to our bylaws, and our bylaws go by parking. So unfortunately, we can't maintain who's in and out of the building and amount of employees.
Mr. I was gonna say too, through you, Mr. Chair. I think the other thing too, just to note, and it hasn't been mentioned, but a restriction on any outdoor storage, yard storage, anything like that. And maybe even overnight parking is also another thing to consider.
I had traffic in there too, for this, so, okay. Anybody else, if you just want to approach the mic, please? Once again, name and address, please.
Thank you. Bob Ferretra, Spruce Pond, 96 High Bank. Just to add to Susan's comments, when you're framing any concerns about this application, please keep in mind, if you don't already know, you probably do, but that one-way street begins at the intersection of King Street and Union, one of the major gateways into Franklin, short distance from 495. So adding to the traffic in that intersection would be a concern. I don't know if a traffic study is required, but that should be considered, I would think. Thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
Hi there, my name is Kim Van Loan. I live at 762 Union Street, directly across the street from this proposed development. I'm going to try to amend what I have pre-written based on some answers that have already come out.
There'll be more meetings too, so don't.
I'm sure.
You have to hit them all tonight if you don't have to.
Well, this is actually a pretty big project that fully impacts our property values, our quality of life. We have children. Most of the houses, which are single-family homes, even though they were referred to as a couple of duplexes, have children living in them. There is a school on the street, and as was mentioned with the traffic. I'm concerned by the businesses that will be put in there, especially now when I hear that they are going to be short-term leases, which will mean our residential area is going to be a barrage of constant different people in and out that we're not even getting the chance to get to know what type of people are being leased to in our neighborhood. That is just not good. This building is going to forever transform the look of, what we look out from our homes. Unlike most homes where kitchens face backyards, our homes were designed with the kitchens facing the front. This is going to span from 758 to 762 Union Street, the entire view outside our windows. We already battle constant highway noise from 495. We struggle with extremely low water pressure. Adding a commercial development of this scale isn't just an inconvenience, it's an assault on our quality of life and our property values. I understand this is a private landowner working within existing zoning laws, but I really have to question the judgment of someone who would look at a street where families have built their lives, who have invested their futures here as taxpaying residents and still choose to purchase a mediocre piece of land just to disrupt our lives simply because they can. Just because something is legally permissible doesn't make it right or responsible. We realize that we may have no actual voice in stopping this from happening. So if it does move forward, we have some things that we would like addressed, such as a substantial highway grade sound barrier wall, because the removal of the existing tree buffer will significantly increase the already problematic 495 noise. An aesthetically designed privacy fence that complements our residential setting. Since this will be the primary view from our kitchen windows and living spaces, it needs to be architecturally pleasing and not an industrial chain link fence. Permanently binding restrictions on business types that must transfer to future owners. Cannabis facilities or grow operations, auto repair body shops, manufacturing processing facilities, food processing facilities, distribution centers, any businesses requiring frequent deliveries or heavy truck traffic, any businesses using industrial equipment or generating significant noise, any businesses operating outside normal business hours, any businesses generating strong odors or fumes. We would also insist on stringent hours of operations. This includes during construction, as the disruption is going to begin for us from day one. Dark sky compliant lighting with limited hours, traffic control measures, and road improvements. Our street is already in very poor repair and so narrow that residents often can't pass each other. If there's a garbage truck or delivery vehicle, we have to ride up in the brush to get past them. It's just dangerous and impractical. Water pressure impact studies and solutions. With our existing water pressure challenges, we need thorough studies, guaranteed improvements before adding a commercial demand to our system. In addition, the entrance to this facility goes down our narrow street, past all of our homes, into a cul-de-sac where children, family members ride their bikes and play regularly. And that's where the entrance is. It's not far past our houses. It's directly across from my house at 762 Union Street, which is at the start of the cul-de-sac. And looking out from my home to see a large sign with various businesses is not aesthetically pleasing, and it's dangerous for our community. Our homes aren't just structures. They represent our futures, our retirement plans, our daily peace of mind. The board's decision tonight will impact not just our property values, but our quality of life for years to come. The development may be legal, but that doesn't make it right. The only truly appropriate outcome would be for the landowner to reconsider this project entirely. Failing that, we expect the maximum possible protections for our neighborhood. Let me be clear, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, is there a possibility to get a copy of your letter so we can see your requests for things to review?
I did.
No worries. Thank you, appreciate it. Yep.
If you just want to give your name and address again,
Yes,
please?
Brian Kafke, 19 Spruce Pond Road. I do find the use very interesting, and I like the idea that it's good for kind of the economy for businesses, but I also share some concerns. The one thing I was wondering is, has there been a study about the sound impact if you tear down all the brush and everything blocking the highway? Because looking at the plan, looks like 195 is like just there, so I was just wondering if any thought has been given to that part.
Is it, there's a lot of small growth in there, isn't there? A lot of substantial size trees.
It's
if I'm not
thick,
correct.
but it's not,
Yeah, it's a lot of small vegetation.
it's
Yeah,
thick brush.
It's just a lot of big
Yeah.
trees.
Okay.
Yep.
If I remember correctly.
Is there a plan for like a sound wall or something? You see a lot of times along highways just to kind of reduce the impact of the sound, or?
Well, it's, we can look at it.
We can look at it.
Okay,
Um,
all right.
A lot of times, actually, believe it or not, a building will deflect the sound that you're getting now too, don't forget.
That could be, yeah.
So, I had another one up on King Street, it's a very similar application, and the buildings actually
Oh.
block the sound, mitigate through.
Okay.
So, not to say it's right or wrong, but they do work though as a
Okay.
barrier.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment?
sure.
Mind? So this is an as-of-right use in C2, right? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So for the planning board and reviewing this, just so I can explain to the abutters a little bit, I'm sure they are already aware of this, but for the planning board, really, what we can do for an as-of-right use is just make it a better project. There's very limited things that we're going to be able to deny or say no to this particular project. So I think a lot of the things that are being discussed, I don't disagree with some of the items listed in the abutters notice. So if we can scan this in and get a copy to Amanda as well, so she can see the types of requests from the
Yep.
abutters, knowing that I think their properties are also zoned commercial too, so they too are in this commercial zone. But that doesn't mean just because you're in a commercial 2 zone that there's no regard for you as an abutter. I think that we do need to take into consideration some of the things, specifically if you're going to be having a startup space for small businesses that deal with the trades.
Yep.
I think it's really important. Maybe some additional screening in the areas that you can fit in, additional trees, better fencing, things that will help reduce the noise. Not necessarily, in my opinion, I know the cost of a sound barrier wall is huge.
Very expensive.
But I think there are other things other than a sound barrier wall in a commercial 2 zoning district that can help reduce noise, and I'd like to see some of those things explored. As far as traffic is concerned, Mr. Chairman, what are your thoughts, do you think?
Excuse me, I'd like to see some kind of numbers run, because now that we have the hotel there too, and the daycare center, so I would like to see some numbers, for traffic. Just, it is getting a little busy up there, I think it is.
And finding, I guess, calling it a warehousing space, if there's an ability to find a better way of looking at classification as a warehouse space. You know, I know we don't have a definition for incubator space, but if there's something we can do to find a more equivalent use than warehouse.
So what I was, if I may through the chair, when I was going through the parking regulations and requirements, as far as all other zoning districts and then looking at non-residential buildings, they have industrial buildings, except warehouses, 1 space per 400 square feet of gross floor area. It's not really industrial, again, for startup. Retailing, medical, legal, and real estate offices, 1 space per 200, doesn't really fit. And then other offices, 1 space per 200, 250 square feet, so that's why we did the 10%. And then, excuse me, the only other line item that's in there for us is warehouses, 1 space per 1,000 square feet. So it's trying to figure out how we can classify that to figure out the correct number of parking spaces. And based on our discussions with the applicant and what they were looking to achieve by this space is, we're showing 31 spaces, you have 8 units, so 3 spaces would be standard minimum for them, and then if, depending on the use, maybe 1 space would get another, you know, an extra spot, or however, or if somebody was to come in and pick something up, that they would have a spot, depending on that, so there'd be a limited amount. It's not a space that's going to be, you know, it's not a distributor where people are gonna be coming in and out on a regular basis. It's really just to have that centralized location for an office. So if somebody wants to have somebody come in and have a meeting with them, they have a centralized spot that they can call theirs.
Do you feel the number of parking spots that you provided are the minimum that you'll probably need to run this type of facility, or do you have excess? I mean, in doing the math, it looks like you're probably just right at that.
I think we have excess based on the tenants that the applicant is looking to market to.
Can you ask your, the applicant if they, thank you, if they feel they can reduce the number of parking spaces at all, or have a bank somewhere, or do they need to build them day one?
I mean, less pavement is always better for all of us.
I think that's where I'm going.
So
Yeah.
we would be, you know, if we could do less and have more spaces, it's really, we were trying to meet the planning board's parking requirements.
I'd love to see a waiver of any of those that are not necessary to
Yeah, so again,
reduce the number of people that'll be on site.
Yeah.
And then just, one last obvious comment to me is that there's absolutely no parking on Union Street.
Correct.
Yeah.
That would,
Yep.
the conditions so far that we've heard, you know, addressed by the board, I don't see any conflicts with what the applicant is intending to do, so
Yep.
I think he'd be welcome. It's really going to be marketed as a business incubator, small startup.
Which I think is a great idea. I just want to make sure that
Yep.
regardless of having abutters that are in the commercial 2 zone, that they are heard and
Absolutely.
additional safeguards are put in place.
You got one more comment, and then we're gonna continue.
Susan Kelly, 20 Spruce Pond. The sirens reminded me of how many sirens I hear going through with the fire station on the other side, the accidents right at King Street, going out to 495, that there were probably 3 accidents in the last 2 weeks, and not little ones, big ones. You've added the hotel, you've added the school. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. And you can say, like, who are these people that the applicant is seeking? You know, what kind of trucks? You've applied for having spaces. I just think you need more information as to who's going to be in there before you can address all these concerns.
She's gonna work on.
Thank you.
all the Comments, and we're gonna continue this anyway, so, Amy,
February 10th?
when?
February 10th?
Yeah, I think there'll be some time to work things out.
Yeah, we have, we're still awaiting
Still
beta
got
comments.
one, yeah.
Yeah, where beta just got, the check just got dropped off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't anticipate anything before the beginning of January, so.
To
Okay.
make a motion to continue 759 Union Street till February 10th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
15 Liberty Way is
Yeah.
not attending tonight.
Okay,
Uh,
so
I would,
just want to continue it.
February 10th?
Sounds good.
Are they close? Yeah. So we'll make
They
a-
are very close.
Okay,
They
so
are.
let's-
I don't know if you want to push it to have a 5th meeting on the 13th of January.
Let's just go for February 10th.
Okay.
So make a motion to continue 15 Liberty Way to February 10th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I have one item that wasn't on the agenda, under general business, that just came in.
But, hey, Amanda, can you guys chat out in the hallway?
Thank you.
I know that Franklin Ridge was approved up on Veterans Way, the subdivision. It was just dividing it into the 3 lots and the drainage lot. I do have plans to be endorsed tonight, if the planning board's willing to take a vote and have them endorsed.
Do they meet all the qualifications of everything we wanted to see on it?
Yes.
Make a motion to endorse?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
And just general business, just want to wish everybody a happy Christmas and a safe New Year's, and enjoy, be safe.
Send me your check.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Look at Bob.
I won't go back.
Go.
Oh, move.
You don't have to, you can.